Hey, what's up YouTube? BOTCG here, back with another deck profile / deck tech. I recently took a sacrifice class to locals. This is a revised list from that local match, so most likely that local match will go up first, and then I'll shoot you a deck profile of the revised listing of what I'm doing with sacrifice class. And honestly guys, this deck is a ton of fun, but damn bro, like even at locals, man, I don't honestly think that if your opponents are playing like coherent, like semi-meta viable decks, that like, oh man, this deck just has such a hard time just because it's like its game plan is naturally so slow. But it's a fun strategy. It's a really cool gimmicky strategy because there's no strategy like what this deck is doing currently in the Divine Z format. But yeah, let's get into the deck profile, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna start weaving in more deck profiles in between these fight videos. I'm gonna try and weave in like how do I say it, like a fusion. Like if I'm playing Favrenil, for example, I'll have a Favrenil fight video, and then I'll be having a Favrenil deck profile, and then another Favrenil fight video, or something like that, depending on how many matches I'm able to get with the deck. But going on to the grade 3s, we're playing 3 copies of Persona Ride. You do need to Persona Ride in this deck. Your lines can be very dainty at times, which kind of sucks, but it's just the reality of what you're doing. 4 copies of Grand Dogma. You need 4 just for consistency's sake. Like minimum, you need 3. But like if you're like, I thought about cutting one, but if you damage one, like you need minimum 3, and then if you damage one, you'll never get the 3rd one for her skill, unfortunately. 4 copies of Sanctuary Basin. Same reason. In the early game, as long as you're on sacrifice class, you want to ideally you want to activate Saturine Basin every turn after turn 3. But if you're on sacrifice class, it what allows you to draw extra cards and what feeds into your giant energy plays. 4 copies of the new Preacher card. It's a new retire for the deck, which that's what the deck was lacking. It needed another retire outlet outside of Eternal Musician. And Preacher also serves as a protection piece against Sojo Doji, since Sojo Doji can touch your bind zone, which you need 2 of her in the bind zone to get her full effect off. So it's just, unfortunately, it's just something that needed to be done in order for us to play the game. Like, and it's so weird because Sojo Doji came out in the same set that this deck came out in, and it was so weird the fact that like there was a deck in the same set that this deck came out in that straight up just counters its whole game plan. But I digress. It's a really good card. It's shield value, it's protection piece, and it also pops cards, which is what this deck is trying to do. It's trying to be a grindy, slow control deck to eventually out-attrition your opponent, which it's hard in this current format. It can be done, but it's hard in this current format. 4 copies of Eternal Musician. This is your main man. This is what lets you retire cards. It gets pumped up by how many times you attack with your Grand Dogma. It's your main key piece here. This is it's really weird. I wish this deck had more bounce back capability. That's what I feel like. Outside of speed, I feel like that's what this deck is mainly missing. More capability to be able to bounce back from your opponent lashing out at your board in kind to you lashing out on their board. Because when your opponent starts sniping your key pieces, like your Eternal Musicians, you really don't like that. You don't like that at all. But I digress. And then I'm very torn on this card. I did cut it to 3. The grade 2 Order Girl. I cut it to 3. Originally it was playing at, I believe, at 4 in the original list. It conflicts with Saturine Basin so much. There's so many times where I have her or 2 of her in hand, but I want to have rear guards on the board so I can draw more cards off of Saturine Basin, but she wants to be played after you play your Saturine Basin. So it's like a little mini conflict, a little bit of a non-bow there, but there was games, there was at least one game whereas I needed her to be able to build my board, because outside of hard calling, this deck doesn't have a way of a consistent way of building board. 4 copies of Folklore. This is the chick that if you energy blasted at the end of battle, it attacked, you can retire her to draw a card. It makes the most sense in this deck. I was originally running, you'll see in the POV match, I was originally running the new 5k grade one that got 5k for every rear guard your opponent called during your turn. But it was hard to consistently trigger him, and he kind of became a dead card in the late game. So I switched it out for this. This just gives you more ability to dig through your deck, which is what you need. You need to be able to dig through your deck in while you're playing this deck. 4 copies of Miasma Beast. Miasma Beast is another key card of this deck. It lets you draw. It searches for your order from the. It lets you play your order from the drop zone, and yeah, that's literally all that Miasma Beast does. But it's a really good key piece. So you need the Miasma Beast in this deck. I was thinking about maybe cutting it to 1 and maybe playing another Lady Orients to have, but I'm not sure. I'm really iffy on Lady Orients, to be honest. But moving on to our staples, 1 Elementaria, 3 DPGs, 1 of the Dark States Overtrigger. Dark States Overtrigger is really good in this deck. If you check it offensively, now you actually have Vanguard pressure, to whereas this deck doesn't have Vanguard pressure. Like maybe on Persona turn if you're going to be swinging for 31 maximum, but you don't really have like giant Vanguard column numbers outside of your Grand Dogma. Which your Grand Dogma isn't even that big, if I'm being honest. So this just gives extra added pressure if you do check it. 3 defense fronts versus the new front. We don't really care about Soul in this deck. The only thing that uses Soul is Lady Orients and Miasma Beast. So we don't really care about Soul in this deck. And the Radline uses Soul too, but surprisingly, a Dark States deck that has nothing to do with the Soul at all, which kind of like kills me inside a little bit, because I'm like, come on, man, like I can't use any of the good Soul pieces because I don't have any way to get my pieces into Soul. But going on to the rest of the triggers, 4 into Soul crits, 4 regular crits, and then 4 regular heals. This deck is a fun deck, unfortunately. It's one of the few decks that I would consider a kitchen table deck. It even feels bad to play with this in a local setting, unfortunately. It's missing, like, obviously it's slow, but outside of being slow, it's missing some sort of comeback potential, and like it needs more offensive power than what it currently has. But it's still a fun deck to play if you really want to play it, but definitely save it for the kitchen table if you don't want to get frustrated. I'm BEOTCG. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We're going to give you more of these deck profiles for this Set 6 Dragenesis meta, so please do stay tuned. Later.